girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so1 Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Sound the alarm. Incarceration Music and Tattoo Festival is back with Shinedown, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Hailstorm, The Offspring, Chevelle, Bad Omens, Chimera, and so many more. Report to historic Ohio State Reformatory this July 19th through 21st. 3 days of non-stop rock, tattoos, Blood Prison, Haunted House, and more. Passes on sale now at incarceration.com.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle. And a real quick housekeeping note, if you are watching us on YouTube or Rumble or BitChute or Odyssey, please hit that follow and subscribe button. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever podcast platform you utilize, please hit that follow and subscribe button there so we can continue to bring you conversations like the one I'm bringing you today. I am talking with Mr. Sean Danielsen from the band Smile Empty Soul. What's going on, Sean?
Not much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We're exchanging pleasantries before we went on the air. We're ready for summer, enjoying the weather. Right.
Yep. And it's always welcome in my book.
Yeah, exactly. So usually when I have people on for the first time, though, I like to get a quick background. So originally, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I guess it depends on the era that you're speaking of. When I was a small child, I always wanted to play baseball. But I started playing music at the age of 9. I started playing piano, and then I picked up guitar at 10. And a couple years into playing guitar, and my focus had totally switched from baseball and sports to music. So that's really all I've ever wanted to do since I was 12 or 13.
Nice. And who are some of the early influences that caught your eye and took you off the baseball, out of the baseball field and into the music world?
The first music scene that really stirred my soul and inspired me was the 90s grunge scene. Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots. I really connected with that group of bands and that genre of music. And, I from then on, that's what I wanted to do.
And then when you, as you started pursuing that, you said you started piano at a young age and then got into guitar. And as guitar started picking up for you, when did you start forming some of your first bands with some of your like-minded musicians in the area?
I actually formed my first band when I was 11. So started pretty young. I was just a young guitar player. I knew power chords and that was enough to just have a basic rock band, garage rock band. And I was living in Maine, the state of Maine at the time, and I formed a band with a couple of friends, and we never played a show, but we had band practice fairly regularly, once a week or so over at my buddy's house, and from there it just grew.
Nice. So not even no high school talent shows or anything?
Not a thing. I from there I ended up joining another band out there in Maine. that ended up playing a couple of club gigs, when I was, I don't know, probably 14ish. And then I actually moved. I was born in LA, moved to Maine when I was 7, and I moved back to LA when I was 15. And then I joined a band when I moved back to LA that ended up evolving into Smile Empty Soul. And so when I joined that band, I was 15, and we started gigging, in Hollywood on the Sunset Strip pretty much right away, probably when I was 16. And I stayed pretty involved in that Sunset Strip scene from 16 through 20 when we eventually got a record deal.
Nice. And then so what was the band before it became Smile Empty Soul?
I'd rather not say the name, but it was it was an established in that town kind of little band, and I joined. But then, a lot of member changes occurred, and it ended up being a scenario where I was the only member left, and decided to change the name and went with Smile Empty Soul, and the rest is what it is.
And then what was the inspiration for the name Smile Empty Soul?
We had a song called Smile Empty Soul, and we were looking for a name that would be unique and not used already, and thought it had a nice ring to it. Gotcha.
And then so like the majority of your playing career, obviously, LA's got a very well established music scene, but what was it like, cutting your teeth there? And what are some of the lessons you learned, as before Smile Empty Soul got a record deal?
It's definitely cutthroat. There's a lot of bands there. I don't know what it's like now, but I'm sure there are still lots of bands there, but definitely learned that we weren't shit, and that we needed to work really hard and find a way to stand out, because nothing's just going to get handed to you.
Yeah, exactly. And then as you were like, in that scene before the record deal, what were some of the oddest jobs you'd say you held along the way?
Well, I worked, I didn't come from money by any means. So I found myself working a lot as a youngster. My first job was as a paper boy in Maine when I was 13. Then I moved back to California. I worked at an arcade, bumper car roller rink kind of place called Mountasia. I worked at a Party City. I worked at Petco. I worked at a place called Mail and More that was like a mailboxes, etc. type place. And then actually, as I was working at Mail and More, we ended up getting interest from a record producer, making our first album, and getting a record deal. And I was able to quit Mail and More, and that's the last time I've been employed by somebody else. So
nice. And then so then the record label comes along, and then it's like, it's go time. This is something you've been working hard and dreaming about ever since you were a kid. What were some of the like most surprising things that you learned as you started getting out and actually, becoming a touring musician and living off of the music business?
Well, most things were surprising, I guess, because I was young and inexperienced. And I was 20 when we signed our record deal, and I was 21 only by 2 months when we hit the road on our first tour. So I wouldn't say there was any one thing that stood out as shocking as much as just the whole thing was crazy and something I had to learn and get used to.
Yeah, kind of like grow up fast out there on the road.
Very much so. Yeah.
I mean,
and
I would think, being young at your young age too, like, and some of the things you probably experienced just there in the LA music scene kind of somewhat prepared you a little bit, but then it's a whole different monster when you're out there away from home, I guess.
yeah, I mean, playing locally, even if it is LA, is still just nothing like what it's like to be on the road. You know what I mean? Just playing gigs at home. It's just one night here and there, that you go down to the club, you set up, sound check, you do the whole thing. Being on the road is just a very different animal. You're living your whole life out there, and you have to learn how to cope with that, how to deal with that in so many different ways. You have to build routines and figure out how to keep yourself clean and fed and mentally stable. And there's just a lot to it.
And then, obviously starting out, you get used to the kind of the van life and start, cutting your teeth, earning your stripes and whatever. But when would you say, when things really started taking off, that you felt like, did you ever feel like, all right, we finally arrived, or is it still the grind? Like, I'm still trying to grab that brass ring.
Well, we were pretty fortunate in our path because we got a great record deal. This is still back in the day of great record deals and of, the industry being full of money and people caring about rock music. Times have changed immensely. So when we shopped our record around, we actually were fortunate enough to have the interest of every major label. And then there was a bidding war. And so we got a great record deal, and it didn't take long for our first single to become very successful. So, hearing ourselves on the radio, seeing our music video on MTV2 and Fuse, and even regular MTV, sometimes overnight late, when they would play rock videos. Those are all moments that were super surreal, and they all happened rather quickly, because our song came out. I can't remember I think it was April of 2023. And, by June or so, it was kind of taking off and doing well. Yeah.
Now, like you were saying, this was back in the day of good record deals. And a lot has changed since then, but I mean, still being so young, I mean, would you say, did you feel like you, I mean, a lot of people get taken advantage of when they're in the business, no matter how good the deal is. I mean, you felt like you were pretty keen to the business, and obviously there was a bidding war for you. You guys didn't sign the first thing that was handed to you, pretty much, right?
We didn't. But I mean, we weren't keen to the business. We were just young and inexperienced and unable to navigate that world. But when I said earlier that we had gained the interest of a producer, that producer signed us to a production deal with him. And then we went on and we made the album and we made the video for Bottom of Bottle just with him without a record deal. So then he shopped us and he knew the industry. So, I think that we definitely, just like every band, got taken advantage of, but that's because that's the nature of the industry. These deals are designed to benefit the label and the executives and the people at the top, by nature. and the band, the artists themselves, they get very little. You know, they get pennies on the dollar, and that's just the way that it kind of works. You know, so I definitely would say that, you know, we probably should have made more money and benefited more from our own success, but that's just the way that the industry goes.
Yeah. And then, you know, speaking of Bottom of a Bottle, I mean, it definitely, you know, quite the jam. It still, you know, stands up today. You know, I was getting ready for this interview and I was playing it at the gym and I was just like, yeah, all these memories were coming back, you know, back. I mean, what an anthem, you know, and it's like, I mean, now I'm 15 years sober, so it kind of holds a different meaning for me. But yeah, I remember that, you know, how pumped that was. What was the inspiration when you guys, you know, wrote that song? And I believe what the album was called Shapeshifter. And I'm curious about, you know, the coming up with the name of that album as well. What inspired that?
Well, the Bottom of a Bottle was originally on our first album, which was just called Smile Empty Soul. It was a self-titled album. But we went through a lot of turmoil, that it's such a long story. I'd hate to delve into the whole thing, but long story short, the producer that signed us originally, the rights to that first record reverted back to him, because that's how he worked the record deal, when we were being shopped. And he did not re-release the record. So the record got pulled down from Lava Atlantic's system, and he did not re-release it. So there were a couple years there where Bottom of a Bottle as a song, as well as all the other songs from our first album, were not available anywhere. And so we re-recorded Bottom of a Bottle, Silhouettes, and Nowhere Kids, along with some other tunes that we've released on other releases. But we released those three on an EP called Shapeshifter in 2016, to get those songs back out there for the people that wanted to listen to them. And we called the album Shapeshifter because many years and many things had gone on and passed since the original release of the first album. And, you know, we had definitely changed forms many times over from the original album's release to that Shapeshifter release.
Oh, gotcha. I thought maybe, you know, that you know, when you got into the industry, they took you to one of those special Illuminati parties and you actually witnessed the Shapeshifter, and, you know, that kind of inspired the thing, but
no, nothing like that.
But yeah, I mean, as you were saying with the whole, you know, the industry being what it is, it sucks. You guys had to go through that whole process with the producer who, you know, thought was helping you guys out, get you out there. But, well,
I mean, he was, you know, he was helping us, but he was helping himself. I mean, if any one person benefited the most from Smile Empty Soul and made the most money from Smile Empty Soul, it was him. So he's, you know, he did all right. I don't think he was doing what he did just to help us out. I think it was money motivated, but he did help us out. I mean, he, you know, even though there's no relationship there to this day, I still recognize that he plugged us into the industry in a way that I could not have. So,
yeah,
you know, there's still, I'm still benefiting from that to this day, in that I was able to develop a fan base from those years that have stuck with me through thick and thin for 20 plus years now, and have been very loyal.
Yeah, I mean, that's great too, that you're able to, you know, a lot of people that would, you know, that resentment would carry on and it would hold them from, you know, turning things around. And it's great that you're able to take that and still see the positive and what it did provide for you and capitalize on it. I was reading too that, you know, with a lot of the past experiences with some of the labels and stuff, that it got to the point where you guys even started your own Smile Empty Music. Is that still going today?
Yeah, I mean, Smile Empty Music Inc. Is my company, and you know, after signing, I don't even know, 7 or 8 record deals over the years, I just got to a point where I was like, these guys aren't doing very much for me other than just releasing this music and then benefiting from the revenue stream created by the music, without pushing it, right? An artist record company relationship should be a team effort where the artist provides the product and then the record company provides the promotion. And I feel like a lot of labels, they really don't do their part these days. They'll just sign things that they know will generate X amount of dollars and then just flop it out there and hope that it does more without having to do any extra work. And I saw that happen to us time and time again. And so in 2017, I just started releasing my own music on my own completely. And let's see, I can't even tell you how many releases I put out on my own, but 4 solo releases and probably 10 Smile releases, in that ballpark. And it's a double-edged sword, because on one hand, you don't have a push. You don't have anybody out there paying anyone to play you or paying anyone to put you out in front of people's faces. But you also have total freedom to run your business the way you feel and do what you want to do with it. And so there's definitely pros and cons. I've enjoyed it in many ways, but this new Swan Song EP that we just recorded and that we're releasing towards the end of the year, it's the first time I'm releasing anything through another label since 2016. And it's because I'm friends with the owner of the label. I've worked with him before, and I think it's going to be a good situation. So it seemed worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because, I mean, I know I didn't realize you put out so many under Smile Empty Music Inc. I think what Black Pilled was the last one that you did under your own?
Black Pilled was the last full-length record, but since then I released an EP called The Loss of Everything in 2022.
Okay.
So I think I released I've released 3 full-length records for Smile, but then I've released a whole bunch of EPs. EPs in this day and age just kind of make more sense, the way that the industry has evolved. And so I've been focusing much more on EPs in the last 10 years than full-length albums.
Yeah, it seems a lot too with the streaming. It's like singles, just as long as you got a new single out there streaming, it seems to be the way everything's going too. But when you were doing everything, yourself, like you said, you had the freedom to do that. Would you say that you benefited quite a bit too by in the day and age of social media? I mean, it's a lot of work, obviously, self-promoting and stuff like that. But would you say that the power is more in the artist's hands now today because of social media? Or is it still like, unfortunately, if you really want to get on those big shows and on the road and in front of people, you still got to, do the work with the labels?
It just takes money, as much as people want to think that things just magically happen for good bands or good songwriters, it always comes back down to money, and labels are a bank account,
Yeah.
And so if you have a label behind you that's willing to open the doors to the bank account and push you, you have a chance. If you don't really have a chance. I mean, it's pretty black and white. There are always the exceptions, but they're few and far between. And so, you know, I personally love having total creative freedom. I mean, you know, I write all the music, I produce my own records, I play all the instruments on them except for drums typically. You know, I sometimes even paint or draw the album covers, and I'm releasing them myself, and I spend no money whatsoever. You know, I don't pay Facebook for ads. I don't pay radio on any level to play my music. I don't take out ads anywhere. I don't do any of that stuff. I just put the music out, promote it myself on my social medias for free. And then I go out on tour 4 times a year and try to hit the entirety of the country each year for the most part. It's worked for me, although, you know, there are definitely times when I wish I had some push, you know, but it's that double-edged sword.
Now you said with this latest release, Swan Song, you feel comfortable working with this label because you already have like a friendship, a relationship here. But what's the inspiration behind the name Swan Song? And is it, you know, fans shouldn't read too much into it? Smile Empty Soul still going to keep rolling, or?
I mean, we're definitely going to continue to keep rolling, but, you know, there is the question in my mind, you know, at this point we are what's considered a legacy act, right? So we had a few hits, but it was a long time ago. And so we are more known for, you know, our fan base can be divided into two different groups, right? There's like the dedicated ones that follow us super closely to this day and are excited about new releases and know all of our music, all of our catalog. And then there's the people that know our name and associate it with a few songs that they like, but haven't followed us as closely. You know, maybe they bumped into one of our newer songs here or there by chance through a friend or heard it here or there, whatever, but they aren't familiar with our entire catalog. And, you know, we've just gotten to a point where I kind of question what it's worth for us to put out new music. You know, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into the writing process, the recording process, and the release of new music. And for a band like us, I don't know that it doesn't level us up to release new music, right? We could keep going and touring and doing our thing off of our current catalog forever if we wanted to. And I'm just weighing it out. You know, I'm seeing how this one does with the help of a little bit of a label push of some kind. And I'm just sitting back and watching as we release this batch of songs and eventually this EP. And then I'll kind of determine whether making new music is in the cards or not.
How would you say that, you know, what the world experienced, you know, back in 2020 may have affected, you know, the music industry as a whole and touring and being able to survive out there, and maybe your decision to continue to make new music?
That's not having any effect on my decision whatsoever at this point. As far as how that era affected us, it really just kept us off the road for a year. You know, it affected us negatively in a sense that you know, I had strong opinions of what was going on in that time period. I feel like that whole thing was being used to remove freedoms from the people and to normalize and condition people to following orders without question and obeying your government, and all of these things that I am not a fan of. And I put it out there in that day and age that we were going to cancel any shows that were requiring the vaccine to attend, and we caught some serious flack for that. I didn't come out with any judgments as far as if you want to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. That's for you to decide. But what my point was that the government should never be able to force its citizens, not just the government, but businesses and establishments, universities, music venues, not these, employers. These places should not be able to force people to take a medical product that is totally untested and unknown. They shouldn't be able to force you to take a medical product, period, in my mind. That's what freedom is all about, right? But people did, some people loved that I said that, and some people hated it. But I would say that was probably the most intense aspect for us about that time period when it comes to running this business.
Yeah. Well, welcome home, brother. You've come to the right podcast, because I'm with you 110% with that whole thing. I've had episodes taken down, from YouTube. I've been put on timeout just for having conversations like the one we're having right now, and if that doesn't, raise any flags for, the average citizen, I don't know,
Dude, I am very throttled. From that moment, I have felt the throttling of my Spotify, of my social medias, of pretty much everything I do. I'm sure I'm on lists, and I'm sure there's an underground list that kicks around to these corporations that are players in this game. Don't assist this person, or don't assist this band because they're not following the rules and taking the orders. And I'm on those lists, and the throttling of all of my world has definitely affected my business and affected my world. But it's absolutely worth it 100% to stand up for freedom. I mean,
amen.
Every person that slagged me for taking that stance fails to see that stance is not just about that one instance with that one vaccine. That stance is to protect our freedoms from anyone that comes along. The power structure sways back and forth as far as who's in charge and whether you personally like them or not, or whatever. And the beauty of America is that we have freedom, and that freedom is for everybody to enjoy. And I wanted to protect that freedom for everyone, regardless of what that means.
That's awesome, man. Well, like I said, you've come to the right podcast. I'm retired Navy, and I got into this thing more part of my, like I said, I'm in recovery at 15 years sober now, and this has been kind of like my therapy for myself. I used to do concert promotions here in Cleveland, and book shows all the time, and that's where I got into a lot of my addictive side. But I still, even the wild days in the Wild West and my days in my military career, it was just like, it was still always about, hey, it's your freedom to live however you want to live, and everybody should have a seat at the table, and we can talk about things that you have a different way of living that I might not agree with, but hey, man, it's your right, because, I know some guys that aren't here today that gave their life so you could have that right, to make those decisions. And this cancel culture thing, man, It's just it's crazy, you know. It's just like, you don't like what I'm saying, so you want to shut me down. But it's like, how do we communicate? How do we come to the table and learn from one another if you silence somebody that you don't agree with over feelings? And like you said, you know, it wasn't just about this one thing. You know, there's so much more at play with, if you keep. I mean, this is like I've had a lot of conspiracy theory like episodes on here too that kind of get me in trouble. But man, my mind's been wide open. The longer I stay sober and dry out, the more I seem to see things a little bit differently, you know. But I've had you know, ever since, like, you know, 9/11, I was finishing my military career, like questioning things and looking at things differently. Like, you know, I've been deployed, and I'll be out on an operation. We'll come back and we'll be in, you know, in the lunch hall, you know, eating, and CNN's on, and they're talking about something that happened where we were just at that didn't happen. Like, what are they talking about?
Well, the news is total propaganda. I mean, the news is controlled and it's propaganda. I mean, the world is not as it's presented to us. And if you just spend a little bit of time really looking into it for yourself, instead of just listening to the talking heads on CNN or any of the news networks, then you'll find the truth. It's just they know that people are lazy, and they know that people won't dig a few layers in for themselves and find that truth. But when you do, things get a little scary. You realize that we've been raised on lies, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's uncomfortable, but, you know, ignorance is bliss, like they say, I guess. But, you know, it could be uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's like, you know, if we all quit falling for all the little things that they're throwing at us to keep us at each other's throats, it's like that movie Ants, you know. We all realize we get together on the right page. You know, I grew up a big professional wrestling fan, and I'm thankful. I'm still a fan to this day. It's my soap opera. It's my escape. It's my bread and circuses, you know. But but I look at politics today as the same thing. You know, it's just like, you may say this is your good guy who you're cheering for, going against this guy that you're against, but they go back to the same locker room and get paid by the same you know, corporations.
We have a uniparty in place that has not helped the average person in so long that we're unable to even recognize that they're the enemy. You know, the illusion of choice between these retarded two political parties, you know, it's just that. It's an illusion. And, you know, they keep people thinking, they keep people pacified with, oh, you know, you have this vote, you have this control, but you don't. You know, your is not counted. And even if it was, it would not matter, because both candidates are typically controlled by the same puppet master, as you just said. And when is the last time anyone in government threw a fucking bone to any of us down here? You know, we're just crashing as a nation in every way. All the signs of a collapsing society are here, and these politicians aren't going to save us. None of them, neither side.
Nope.
Best interest in mind. And we need to recognize that. And I mean, in my mind, every office of government needs to be vacated and refilled with plumbers, carpenters, you know, regular people that will get in there and make decisions that benefit the average person.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, they've been putting on like this good show, and I think this will lead into my next question a little bit too. But they've been putting on this good show, and at the beginning of this programming, I was kind of buying into it too. I was like, I kind of, you know, I think I found my outlaw. I think I found my guy. But the world's a stage, man, and I believe that, you know, this is a whole nother role that's being. I mean, reality comes from reality TV, and I think you know, he's still playing a role that everybody's kind of sitting on their hands, trusting this plan, looking for a savior. you know, and we got to look in the mirror, man. We got to save ourselves. But using that as my rolling into your single Savior, let's talk about the inspiration for that song.
Well, I think that song is just in general about the the modern society that we're in. I mean, it's a cold attitude of selfishness that society has at this point. And it's kind of a shame. We're so busy fighting each other and being cold to each other that we can't recognize these things that you and I are talking about right now.
Yeah, and then if somebody hears this conversation, we're looked at like we got three heads. We're the crazy ones.
Right.
It's like, put on the glasses, man. Listen to Rowdy Piper. Put the glasses on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, okay, well, cool, because I had this written down in my notes too, because I was paying attention. I'm big on symbolism and Easter eggs and stuff like that. But I was watching the music video for the song Savior, and of course, first thing I noticed is the was a Guy Fawkes mask from V for Vendetta, being worn. And then there was like an Eyes Wide Shut type mask. I think you were wearing like the gold. I don't know, what was that? But you also had your T-shirt on with the beaked the plague mask going on. So am I like reading too much? Am I like too crazy, or are you sending out some like vibes during the video?
No, yeah, you're right there. It's there wasn't a direct message being sent as much as just like you said, throwing out little tidbits.
Yeah, with those with eyes will see, and
exactly
pay attention to get you thinking. But
exactly.
Now you talk about with the meaning behind the song, with just people being, was that kind of like written from your experience of what you've dealt with since speaking up too, or like what was or just society in general today is just
I think everything, all experience plays a role when you go into writing a song. Like you draw from the entirety of your life, kind of like Dewey Cox. So I mean, I'm sure that experience has definitely played a role, but in general, it is just mostly a statement on our current culture.
Gotcha. And now, I don't want Shauna to get too upset with me for, setting us up. And I don't want to go full Alex Jones mode or anything like that. But what do you guys like have set up with now? The EP is supposed to drop before the end of the summer? Is it almost all done?
The EP's done. It won't be released until the end of the year, because the way we're doing it is we're releasing one song every 6 weeks or so until we've released most of the EP, and then we'll drop probably the last song with the release of the whole EP towards the end of the year, although we haven't picked an exact date yet.
And are there you guys plan on hitting the road supporting the album?
Yeah, we just got home from tour about a week ago, and then we go back out on July 19th. We're doing a 6-week run that's kind of like a hodgepodge of a bunch of shows. We're doing a bunch of festivals. We're doing some Head PE dates. We're doing a couple of dates with Raw. We're doing a date with Hinder, a date with Nonpoint Taproot, and Head PE, and just a bunch of different kind of random shows, but it's all slung together like one tour. And then we come back from that in early September, and then we go back out mid-October to do the West Coast and the Southwest, all the way over to New Orleans with Trapped.
Nice. Now, some of those previous bands you mentioned too, I've had members on on this show in the past. And how, you were saying that you kind of got some slack, but you mentioned playing some festivals. Were there any like festivals that were kind of like, I don't know if we want them on, or do you think that's kind of like, that time has passed and now you're able to get back out and play or what have you noticed since that time period where you were just speaking up for all of our basic freedoms?
In general, it's just always an uphill battle for Smile Empty Soul. It seems like the cards seem to be stacked against us, and they have been. As I said, I feel like due to the books that I've ordered on Amazon and the things that I've chosen to watch on YouTube and the articles I choose to read, they're keeping track of all these things, and they put us all in categories based on these things. And I just can't help but feel like at times I'm up against kind of an invisible monster that just shuts shit down for me. But that's okay. I seem to manage anyway, and it's all good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, brother, welcome to the club. I'm not expecting this thing to take off like Joe Rogan or to see any of those types of checks, with the podcast. In fact, my numbers with some of the guests that I've had on here are still surprisingly low. I've been able to pull, some big names and have good, build good relationships regardless. I'm going to just keep going forward and doing my thing and not, if I focus too much on like where I wish this thing was, or, monetizing it and whatever, it takes the fun out of it anyway, man. I did 20 years of military service, and this is like I said, my therapy, but also like, hey man, I'm going to speak my truth, and whatever happens, man. I'm going to, wherever I'm 51 years old. I had a good run, it's just like wherever things go, I'm going to go out on my feet, hopefully.
Integrity is more important than money.
Exactly.
And if you look at the most successful right now, this is a music industry thing that we're doing, right? You're a podcaster, so you probably expand outside the music industry, but I'm within the music industry. And if you look at the people in the music industry that are pushed, that just seem to just have ultra levels of success, you start to notice that those are the ones that play the game. Those are the ones that say the right things that the powers that be want them to say, and they're the controllable assets, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're running shit and it's your money that breaks artists wide open, you're not going to sit there and break an artist all huge that you can't control. You're not going to put your money behind an artist, make them huge, give them tons of leverage and a voice in the world, unless that they're controllable.
Yeah.
And as much as it would be nice to be more successful, my integrity is not worth that, and that's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm sure you sleep a lot better at night too, though, because I know quite a few of these guys that like you said played they pushed the narrative. They were the talking heads for their fan base. Hey, do it for keep grandma safe. Do it so we can, keep gathering together and enjoying live music together and all this stuff. And a lot of them are like, I think, having buyer's remorse. I'm seeing it firsthand. A lot of maybe some, if there was any integrity left in them, they're feeling the guilt and shame for playing that part, and then what happened to, the punk rock aspect of, and the rebellion of music, what happened to the Rage Against the Machine, and you're raging for the machine now? It's like,
yeah,
I like the guys that continue to be the black sheep and continue to be the rebels in the group. Even though, like I said, I did 20 years for Uncle Sam. I've still always kind of like asked questions. I didn't just say, all right, sir, right away, sir. You know, that's just, you know, who I am. But awesome, man. Well, I know we're going a little over time, Sean. If you got a couple more minutes, I'd like to ask you some of the questions I normally ask my guests I have on.
Sounds good.
Going back to like you know, your early inspirations in music, but who are, like, would you say your top 3 artists today that you follow?
Ooh, that's tough. I don't really listen to a lot of music, to be honest with you, these days. My whole life is centered around music, and music is my work, you know? And so in my downtime, I would rather listen to the air conditioner in my car than some band, especially rock music. I mean, rock music's never been worse in my mind. There aren't too many rock bands that I dig what they're currently doing. I would say I listen more to like the Coulter Walls of the world than rock music at this point. You know, like I'll take like a acoustic country singer songwriter with integrity, like Coulter Wall, over, you know, any of these bands that just don't do much for me.
Gotcha. And what was, you know, I mean, with the tour or the festival that you just played and stuff, what was, because I enjoy going to a lot of these music festivals. I enjoy, like, you know, I'm just at the Sonic Temple, the Danny Wimmer Festival here in Ohio, and I enjoy like reconnecting with a lot of old friends behind the scenes. But, you know, like you, I know, you know, who's the smiling face kissing babies and who the real, you know, the real deal is with certain people. What was your experience this last couple festivals that you got to play on?
Well, the Danny Wimmer festivals, he just won't put us on his festivals, really. It's so those festivals are out for us. The festivals that we play are some of the more smaller festivals. Some of them are still great, but they're not like his massive, you know, rock fests. We didn't do any festivals on this last run, so I'm not sure which ones you're talking about exactly. But
I thought you mentioned, you know,
we have like 6 or 7 coming up on the next tour.
Oh, coming up. Okay.
Yeah. But we just did this. We just did a Northeast tour on our own, just a headlining run on this last run, and just did club dates the whole time. But festivals are always good, man. You know, they're always fun. It's fun to play to larger crowds outside with cool bands, and we enjoy those when we get them. I'm trying to think of who we're doing a couple of cool ones, although smaller ones in the summertime.
When's the next time you guys think you're coming through Cleveland?
Well, we just played Lakewood, which is a Cleveland outskirts town.
Where was it? The Winchester or something?
Yep, we just played the Winchester less than a month ago, and then we're coming back through with Head PE to play it again in August.
Nice. Well, I'll definitely try and make it out to that show so we can chat in person.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, let me know.
And then what you know, with a lot of being like-minded as we are on things, what class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
Well, I'm not sure about that. You know, personally, I'm not a big fan of the public school system. Surprise, surprise. My daughter is homeschooled, and it's fairly easy to keep up with the public school pace and curriculum at home with an hour and a half to 2 hours of work a day, and not only just keep up, but actually have her ahead. You know, the public school system's trash.
Yeah.
We, you know,
Me and Elias talked about that from Nonpoint. He's doing the same thing. You know.
Yeah, you know, the United States of America public school system was #1 in the world when Jimmy Carter federalized the system, and we've gone from #1 to last amongst the civilized world in that time. So that's an absolute failure.
Yeah.
And you know, in this day and age, I feel like the school system is more designed to just get kids accustomed to sitting down, shutting up, and obeying orders. And I'm not sure what classes they actually teach that behoove anybody anymore. I mean, basic math and reading and writing are always great, but history's a crock of shit. And, you know, a lot of what they're teaching these days is, you know, kind of some strange, what I wouldn't consider to be actually educational topics. And so I don't know. I mean, in my mind, everybody should be homeschooling their kids if possible.
This is one of the books that got me listed on Amazon, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's in my library here.
Yeah.
Talking about our education system, like you said, right after Carter. This was written by Charlotte Iserbert. She was, I think, in the Department of Education under Reagan, you know, and she saw it happening then.
And it's only gotten way, way worse, you know. It's trash. And I think that it's a babysitter for a lot of parents. And I understand, you know, times are tough, and a lot of times both parents have to work. And what do you do with your child during that time? School's free, but you also have to realize what the repercussions of that are. And you let the state raise your child, and your child will be a product of the state.
Yep. Oh, yeah. And then who are 3 people who've inspired you, or you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Obviously, you know, my parents. I couldn't pick just 3, but if I had to highlight 3 groups, I guess it would be my parents and then both sets of grandparents. You know, both my sets of grandparents were very hands-on. I was born when my parents were both very young, and my grandparents were almost like second sets of parents, second and third sets of parents. And I'm really grateful to have had all of them to look up to and be role models, because they were some great people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree, man. I look back and remember, I mean, my parents were older that had me, but you know, just I grew up in the day and age where their mom was stay at home. You know, my dad only had like a 6th grade education. He served in World War II, but I lived in a, you know, middle class. I was raised in a middle class home in a middle class neighborhood, you know, and how things have changed now, where it's like purposely to divide the family unit, to have both parents at work, for the latchkey kid, for the TV or the state to raise your kid. And we see how that's turning out, you know?
Yeah. Television and video games, and the state raising your kid is a terrible thing. And like you said, that was done purposefully.
Yeah. And then take us back to like a happier time. I mean, before, I mean, I know you started playing piano at a young age, and then you were playing baseball, but what was your favorite toy as a child?
That's a tough one. You know, I would have to say it's not really a toy, but when I moved from California to Maine when I was 7, we lived out in the middle of nowhere in the woods on a lake, in like a summer camp kind of shack thing, and we had a little rowboat, and I used to get in that thing and just row around the lake every day. You know, that was my whole world, and I'd probably have to say that's my favorite toy that I ever had. I have so many great memories of just being out on that lake in the rowboat by myself. I can't believe my mom even just let me as a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old just row all the way across this lake and park the boat and then go explore the woods across the way with a hatchet, you know, but she did. And, it was very beneficial for me. You know, those experiences are ones that I still draw from to this day.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, you could have ended up the next Jason Voorhees or something, but you know, I'm glad things turned out differently.
That's right.
And then, you know, any message that you have for our military members that are currently serving overseas?
I mean, you know, thank you for your service. And, you know, hang in there. This country is, the leadership is rotten, and it must be hard, morally and mentally to be a service member in this day and age. But, you know, as bleak as it looks, I still have hope that there's a way out. Hopefully we find it. But, you know, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't think, I mean, anybody's coming to save us. I think it's up to us. You know, you got to look at the person in the mirror. And like they say, you know, it's like, how are you going to change the world? Well, you can, it's hard enough to change ourselves at times, but one day at a time, man, you know?
Absolutely.
Well, hey, Sean, man, I mean, I could keep going on and on talking with you. It sounds like we could do like a part 2 or something, you know, and, you know,
right.
get canceled and more people mad at us or whatever. But,
that's right.
But I appreciate this conversation, man. I appreciate your time. For people out there that want to support Smile Empty Soul and this new EP and everything, and you know, see when you guys are touring and all that stuff, where would you send them?
I mean, you know, we have the standard Facebook, Instagram, X pages that I run, and I have my own personal pages that I run, where I post every pertinent piece of information having to do with Smile Empty Soul. So, you know, if you want to keep up with tour dates or song releases or whatever, just, you know, go give us a follow and make sure to check out the page all on your own once in a while, because Facebook will probably not allow you to see my posts. But you know, the best way to support us is really to just go listen to our music.
Awesome. Sean, man, thanks for your time, man. It was really cool talking with you. And, you know, I'll definitely be looking to try and catch you with Head PE in August when you come back through town.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, of course, man. And before I let you go, you mind doing me one last favor?
Sure.
Mind cutting a promo ID for the show? Just introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Absolutely. What's up, guys? This is Sean from Smile Empty Soul, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Awesome. Sean, man, thank you so much for your time, man, and keep doing what you're doing, brother. Support you.
You too, dude. I appreciate you, and let us know if you want to come out to that show, and we'll get you taken care of.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'll hit Sean up and pass my information along.
Perfect, man. We'll look forward to seeing you in the summer then.
All right, take care.
You too, man.